Hello and good day in the Viking tongue. And I am, as you know, your host, Bragi, the son of Magnar. And I'm with a very good friend of mine.
I'm Egil Thorson, warrior, runecaster, storyteller and trader.
Oh yes, we're both warriors. Now, this is the Weekly Viking vlog, episode 13.
Who would have thought we'd have done this far?
I never thought we got into 13 episodes of a vlog series.
Indeed.
Not a load of blog series. So yes, that makes you a bit more confused what a blog is.
A blog and a vlog.
Well, a blog is written down, a vlog is on video.
Okay.
There you go. And this is our channel update vlog, and this is to make up for last week when we couldn't publish a vlog, which we're going to talk about as we go along. We do have an order of things to talk about, and this is basically an update, but also to celebrate the fact that we've made a lot of content, haven't we, in the last 3 months? Yeah. You know, and we've been producing content for 3 months and 15 days, and between Egil and myself, we've done nearly 100 pieces of content. So wow. I think we need to have a big cheers for that.
Hey.
Cheers. And also a big cheers to everybody who watches, because without you, we would not be here.
Yeah, and their comments.
Yeah.
Always welcome.
So, and that's the general idea of this vlog. And we are going to publish 2 vlogs this weekend, so we'll be back on track with vlog 14 as well, and back with some of the items you love in the vlog, including what's in Bragi's bucket, and you have the answer to the episode, the riddle answer, and the last vlog. So we're going to talk about that in the next vlog, but today we're going to talk about the content we've done, what we think about it. We're going to talk about what we're going to be doing next, and we're also going to be discussing, with this being the 13th vlog, luck and superstitions are in the Dark Ages. So at the end of this shorter vlog. So what you've been up to in regard, without going into too much detail, you've got to talk about it again in a few minutes.
Yeah. Well, it's been one of those days. I mean, for our foreign visitors, it's been one of the hottest summers we've had since 1976, which to us poor islander folk, it's really, really hot. In fact, we've been on a par with Portugal.
Indeed. It's been glorious, but at times too hot to bear it.
It is for a little round chap like me.
Or even tall little.
No, as I say, I've been working on a script, which is something else from this. I've been trying to keep a roof over my head with the housing benefit people, which is still ongoing. What else? As I say, learning sagas, which, what is it about the Vikings and lists?
Yeah.
You know, names, you got lists of names, blah, blah, blah. I think, we do we want to know that? Well, apparently they do, but it's the learning the lists, the basic stories.
Yeah, well, if you've got a saga, you've got to remember all the names of the characters. You've got to remember the names of the places. And that's a lot. And especially trying to memorise it. So, but now we've got some even bigger whiteboards. I'm going to buy another one soon, just for that purpose. So we've got a much bigger one for that.
It's our version, really, of the prompter.
Yeah.
You see them in television where they have a roll-in of comment of the next lines. Well, some things are difficult to remember, like one of them's got 11 rivers to mention.
Oh yes, but don't get me wrong, we're not scripting what we... This is never scripted. We just have a prompting board so we can remember the highlights of what we're talking about.
Makes it more entertaining.
Or in this case, with the vlog, we have a little board down there, and we'll probably cover this in another vlog where we show some more behind the scenes of how we do it.
That's why I keep looking down.
Yeah, and
a clock.
Yeah, we have a clock as well, so we know how long we've been recording roughly for.
Yeah.
It's both important in video recording. And the board is just there basically, so we've got an order of what to go past, and we just don't do random vlogs talking about random things, because structure is important.
Well, it confuses other people, because we know what we're talking about, but it doesn't mean to say Percy Smith in Middlesex doesn't know what we're talking about, and it may not have any sense to somebody outside. So Yeah.
So we're very sorry that we didn't publish the vlog last week. I mean, Egil himself was very busy, and I was preparing for my father, Magnar, to come back home. So naturally, when you look after an elderly person, you have a lot to prepare for. I had lots of meetings and things to organise last week, and we were saving the filming to the weekend, but for the first time in 3 months, we had the most worst weather possible, and it rained and it thundered and it poured down, and it was just tremendously windy, and so therefore we couldn't really film, and it just got to the point we couldn't get the vlog out. And
the wind is the biggest problem because it's in danger of knocking the camera over.
well, for me, that's the least problem with the wind. The wind problem is the background audio noise you get, and if I could figure out how to use an OBS studio and reduce that, I would do it, but I can't figure that out.
Well, when winter comes, we'll have to film indoors, that's all.
Well, most of the time last year we did film outdoors in winter. It's only the only times it stopped us filming when I filmed with Turkey was A, the rain, and B, the wind. But in this situation, if it's raining or windy, we will film indoors. If it's not too bad and we can bear it with a cloak, let's film outdoors. And I'm also thinking about getting a little firebox going, so we can sit around a little fire outdoorsy. I'm sure you guys, and ladies of course, would love to see that. A bit of wood smoke drifting in the air as we tell a folk tale.
Bit of sinusitis.
Yes.
That's actually digressing slightly. A study of Anglo-Saxon skulls, 100% of them had sinusitis.
And what is that then?
It's where the sinuses swell up and you can't have difficulty breathing, and it's due to the wood smoke from fires.
One thing you have to remember is that a lot of people never heard of that. A lot of people, you'd be surprised, would never heard of Vikings.
No.
And so you always have to remember when you make a channel, and you have a channel, that a lot of people just never heard about the things we talk about.
There are people who don't know about the Second World War at all, who've never heard of it, and that's a sad reflection of our education system rather than anything else.
But we are going to correct that with a new series we're going to think about and make in the future and try, and we're going to talk about further down in this vlog. So we've done the update why we've not made our content the last week. We've just been very busy. Some days life just catch up with you. We're human beings after all. But I just thought about it and I thought, well, let's get this 13th vlog out because we do have a lot to celebrate. Technically the channel is a year old, so that's superb, although technically we didn't start producing content until October, so that's generally when I consider the birthday to be, not when I actually created the channel. But we are technically a year old channel, and you know we have over 130 pieces of content. That is a lot of content for a channel. And I think we also, with the moment, producing 4 pieces of content. I think with the way things are going in the next couple of months, I think that will be going to 6 and possibly even 7, a daily content channel. So
we'll toast that.
Yeah, we will toast that. I mean, naturally, if you have a daily content channel, you do have days when you might struggle to get a piece of content out. So, but we'll always try to be daily. But some days you might have 5 pieces of content out in a week or 6.
Like last time we had a real good session, didn't we?
I know. I mean, I could go now and I could publish 30 pieces of content in the next hour. But you don't want it all in one go. And so let's talk about what we've done. So what's your highlight so far?
What, from the whole thing? Telling the sagas, I like that, but I like talking to the viewers.
Yes.
When we have comments and they're asking questions, it's always nice to hear what you, because let's face it, you're the guys that make this channel. We churn out this stuff, and we're glad, well, I'm sure we're both glad that you appreciate what we're doing. And I love the feedback from it.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. And what's your favourite bit?
I think it's the interaction with the subscribers to a massive degree.
Thing,
I mean, the content we make is great and fantastic. I mean, I'm a firm believer, and I'm very, very positive that this channel is going to be very successful in the future. But it's the interaction with the subscribers that I find the most interesting thing.
And it's the questions they ask as well. the things you don't normally
It's the
expect.
friendship you develop.
Yeah.
Because we do consider you to be our friends,
Mm.
even our family. So there's that, and you know, let's talk about the folk tales. That's how this channel started. We started off as a folk tale channel, which is the main aim of the channel is to have one of the largest databases of basically a video library of folk tales. And I can very easily see us ending up having 2,000 to 3,000 folk tales on the channel, and this being a channel in 5 years with 5,000 videos on.
Yeah.
And that is the aim we all go for.
Well, I mean,
That's a lot of content.
it's an excellent medium because, let's face it, a lot of people don't read books anymore.
No.
They go to electric medium like this.
Yes.
And okay, so they don't read the books, but they no reason why they shouldn't know the folk stories because we're going to tell them.
Yes.
And they are all, unlike a book, they can comment direct to source, i.e. us, and say I like that or I don't like that or have you tried it this way.
Yeah, well, when you get a dislike, nobody ever puts the reason why. They just give you a dislike.
Yeah,
Well, that's the way it goes with dislike.
let's
But
put it as
a dislike is still a positive interaction.
Exactly.
So,
it's also another notch on the old total.
and we've
so-
had 8 compared to 1,000 plus likes. I think we're about 1,150 likes at the moment. So that keeps going up. So we started off with folk tales with Tick here. He did a good job, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then of course I got into telling some folk tales. I needed to come on the channel at some point and start telling some stories, especially if we were going to get into live streaming, which we never did with Tick here, as I could never quite get him to do more content of what I wanted, in the sense that he's a bit stubborn and
Singular personality.
he's one of these. He's very hard to suggest something and to get him to do something. I mean, he's great at telling the folk tales, but if I said let's do a historical video, he'll never do it. So that was a slight problem because it wasn't just a folk tale channel. Because I wanted to talk about the history. Because although there's not a lot of folk tales out there, and especially what we're doing, and there's not a great deal of decent content on the sagas. But that's likewise again with Viking and Dark Age history. So I wanted to expand, and this is where we tried new ideas when you came along, which is fantastic because one thing which the audience loves is trying new ideas.
Give it a go.
And we can very clearly see from the Weekly Viking vlog. Folk love that. I
Yeah.
mean that's our most watched content. And then we have the trailer reviews, which I think are going to be a very big thing on the channel because I think you're going to find us. I think that's the content where we're going to be at top of the searches for a lot of it
Yeah.
because we do a good job. We produce quality content there.
I think because we're honest.
We are, yes.
I mean, yeah, we pull back. I pull back a bit because I don't want to.
We don't want to be too negative toward these trailers. We try to be. It's a bit like good cop and bad cop, in a way, like I see it. But we try to be positive in the sense that the producing content and the spreading the word. That's the most important message with these film trailers.
But also, Kirk Douglas is a particular.
He's a
favourite
dude.
of mine. Yeah, very good guy, and that film because he researched it.
Yes.
If you're watching,
Yes.
Kirk, thank you for
Please
that.
give this video a like
Yeah.
and subscribe to the channel. It's free, Kirk. Mr. Douglas. So we tried different things. So we tried the trailer reviews. I thought that went down brilliant.
Yeah.
Then you started doing, before that, your historical videos. They went down a storm,
Yeah.
and they still are.
Well, we're going to be doing some.
Oh yeah, we have a lot more of them to be published.
Because in the historic content on PBS America, Michael Wood was going through Athelflaed and her campaigns,
Yes.
Edward the Elder, and then of course Athelstan, which are particularly relevant for Northworthy, Derby, as Athelflaed came and kicked 7 bells out of the Vikings and anyone else who happened to be getting away. But yeah, I met Michael Wood, very nice chap.
What I like about Michael Wood, and I think he's somebody you can admire as somebody who does what we're doing, is that you could look up to him, and also you could see his techniques of how he tells a story, because he's very diplomatic and he doesn't get political, and I think he's got a very good way of telling, and to me it kind of inspires me to learn a bit how he does it.
Well, as I say, I met him in Jorvik, very nice chap. We were talking about Athelflaed, he said good luck. But he also does a series on Kibworth, which is Leicestershire, not far from here. I've been to Kibworth, nice antique
I've never
shop.
been there.
It's a very small place. It's on the way to my mate Rob, where he goes shooting.
Oh right.
But there's an antique shop there, which is pretty good. And the village of Kibworth goes way back like car seats. It goes even earlier than the Viking age and the Saxon age.
Well, lots of places do.
Oh, especially around here. But yeah, nice one, Michael Wood, if you're watching.
Oh yes, you can give us a like too, and
Yeah.
subscribe to the channel, Michael. If he's on YouTube,
Sure
he must be
is.
getting on now. I don't know.
I can't talk, can
I would very much like him to do revisiting the, In Search of videos that he did,
Yeah.
because that was a brilliant series, and I've watched them a few times.
Well, In Search of the Dark Ages
Yeah.
was the first book I got of his. And then he did the search for Alexander's, the Troy, because he was nicknamed the Troy Boy. But very nice chap. And he's inspired me a lot actually.
Yeah, he inspires me.
And also, In Search of the Dark Ages, the end credit, Jethro Tull, Ian Anderson, you're a genius. It's called Blood of the British.
If we ever get mobile, we could visit these places. I'd very much like to do our own series In Search of, like
Yeah.
an updated version,
Yeah,
in honour and out of respect, because they really were a good series.
it's a fantastic series.
And you can find them on YouTube, so please
Yeah.
go and search for them by Michael Wood.
Yeah,
I have a few of his books. And then the last piece of type of content we tried was live streaming.
yeah, we'll have to have a go at that a bit more.
Yeah, well, we will be doing more live streaming, because fundamentally live streaming should be quite a large percentage of your content, especially when you become monetarised, because then your subs can send a donation through Super Chat. So that's all groovy in the future. If we get some donations, we'll open up a post box.
It's all Greek to me. But yeah, I mean, this guy knows what he's talking
Yeah.
about.
So we will. It has been very difficult for us to live stream, as you could imagine at the moment. But we are committed to doing live streams, and we hope if we can start meeting 2-3 times a week, then we're gonna
Yeah.
have that opportunity to fit it in. So,
Should improve the quality
'Cause-
as well.
I don't really have much to do in my life apart from look after my father.
That's a big enough job.
That's a big job, but I do have a lot of spare time in the afternoons, and
Well, I think that may increase, what you have to do.
well, maybe so.
So we have to be flexible.
I have to be flexible. It's a demanding job.
Well, I mean, what you don't see, of course, I sit here blah blah blah, but you're the one guy who puts it all together,
Well, yeah.
and that doesn't happen in 5 minutes, does it?
No, it does take time. I mean, for a 40-minute video, let's say we've got an hour vlog. Now I can edit that in probably 10 minutes, but it's going to take probably an hour or 40 minutes to download it for the phone. I've got to edit that, so another 10 minutes. But then it's probably going to take 3 to 4 hours to render. And there's always a chance you get halfway through, or 69%, and it will collapse, and you've got to
Yeah.
render it again. And if you don't save your project, you've got to re-edit your project. So it does take a lot of time editing.
It's not the easy way of living that people think.
I'm more than happy to advise people on making a YouTube channel, because I've studied it a lot. And my main advice for anybody wanting to get into YouTube is to go to people like Brian G. Johnson, to Darryl Hayes, and to Nick Nimmin, and go and watch their content for 6 months and watch nothing else, and just watch how to be successful on YouTube and learn every aspect of it. And then once you've done it for 6 months, you've got a good basis of where to start. And then just don't give up.
It's studying, persistence. Yeah.
I mean, most channels fail because individuals give up.
Yeah.
We're not going to give up.
Well,
we're not quitters, are we?
they probably think it's an instant success. And
It's not.
that's
It's
it.
not.
It's not. It's hard work.
You know, it's probably, you know, not even 1%, not even 1% of 1% have instant success.
Yeah.
And most of the times when you get instant success, it's because of some random video gone viral.
Yeah.
That doesn't fundamentally mean you're a YouTuber or you have a channel, because, you know, people upload the content every day, but they're not fundamentally editing it and doing it professionally. And I like to think ourselves as professionals here.
Well, it's a mini TV studio that you're doing, isn't it?
Yeah. Though when I say that, I always say it in a sarcastic manner, thinking of Deep Digger Dan, when he's saying, well, I'm a professional. It's just saying it as a joke, really.
Oh.
So we talked about so far the channel update. We've got lots of content planned, and we're going to talk about that next. So what are you planning to do in the future?
I've got a couple of sagas, well, 3 sagas up my sleeve. We'll do some more folk tales and beef up my content a bit more.
Yeah, I'm going to remind me today, I'll go and buy a copy of Egil's Saga.
Yeah.
Have it in the post by next week.
And also the historical side. By the way, if you've got a question about history, please, or archaeology, please send it in. If I don't know, I'll research it and get back to you.
Yeah. Ask Egil.
Yeah. Egil Underground.
Yep, Egil Underground.
So,
We'll have to take you to the cave for that one.
but I mean, there's all sorts of things, historical. I mean, basically, there's years and years and years and years and years of work here.
Over the years, yes.
Not to mention the years and years of sagas and folk stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that to go at as well. I've actually remembered I've got some.
Getting up. If you carry on,
I'll carry on and you go and do what you got to do.
I've got to go and do something.
So, alone at last. He'll be back in a minute. One thing I was going to mention, I'll mention it when he gets back. I've got some authentic Viking bits that I could show and talk about, show and tell if you like. And I've had them in my cupboard for a while now, and I think that'd be great. So, what else am I going to do? Well, also there's things like archaeological technique, what to do if you find anything, and of course history. And I'm a great believer in history. I think it was Suetonius, yes it was, who said, a man who doesn't know from whence he came will remain forever a child. And I know what he's getting at on that. I know that I've looked into my family's past, very impressed I was too. But the thing is, and this is something I believe from the bottom of my heart before I went to university, history is for everyone. And it's up to us to project that, give you an interest. And most people, once that interest is sparked, are very, very happy and keen to look at it. But if you don't present it, nobody knows about it. And we all date from way back, otherwise it wouldn't be here, obviously. But I find it a fascinating subject. And something else, I was very fortunate when I was at York to do women's history for a year. And I urge women to look at history as a different situation. Okay, history basically is kings, queens, who did what to who and what happened next. With women, it's a political statement, something to have a look back at. There are some fantastic ladies. I mean, Queen Athelflaed is just one of many, many women. The most common one that people would remember, of course, is Queen Elizabeth I. Boudica. Although Boudica, archaeologically, she isn't there, but there are accounts about the battles and how she fought against the Roman legions. So, ladies, don't be afraid, have a look, have a go, see what's what. There's a lot to go at. And to our American friends, the Vinlander sagas fought off the natives there, and it was inspired by a woman. who turned out to be a nasty person later on, but that's by the by. So I urge you all to look at, just have a go. And same with archaeology. People think, oh, you've got to be a doctor, you've got to be this, that and the other. No, you haven't. To do archaeology, just go to your local, go have a look on the internet, look at the local archaeology units and go as a volunteer and listen to what the professionals tell you. And I had a friend, he and his wife go off to Vinlandia, which is Hadrian's Wall, every season, and they make a family holiday of it, which is really great. You've got this sense of continuity. The original digger there was Robin Burley. Well, his grandson now does the digging and takes over, and it can be a fun activity. It doesn't matter what age you are. I've dug on sites where we had a caravan and the pensioners sat in there was a nice lot of tea going, and they were cleaning the relics as they came out of the trenches. And as you went in and say, what's this? In a pot, and you describe it to them, and they're chatting away about this, that and the other, and having a good time. So you don't necessarily have to go down in trenches and getting filthy, but there's nothing like when it doesn't matter what it is, you unearth, say, a shard of pottery. You're the first person who has touched that in maybe 1,000, 2,000 years. And you've heard this, I'm sure, on many archaeological programs. Well, to me, yeah, once you've experienced it, you'll know what I mean. And it's as I say, for those of you of a scientific nature, science is used a lot now in archaeology. You have ground penetrating radar, and I was lucky enough as a student to go to Sutton Hoo and use resistivity. What's resistivity? Glad you asked that. Basically what we've got a wooden frame with two prongs, and there's two wires with a charge going through it, and it was found that you send the electricity through the ground, and if it's been disturbed, then the electricity flows faster. If there's a wall or something, obviously it bounces off. And I went on the ground at Sutton Hoo in 1989, a long time ago, and we discovered 200 different graves. Well, so what? Well, the thing is, with the bodies in that grave, they were shaped, the pits were cut for them, and as I'll be talking about these things later on, the runes, they were shaped like runes, something that appealed to me. But even more interesting, when they unearthed it, Sutton Hoo has a very acidic, sandy soil. The British Museum put a crate in there in the 70s, and Marty Carver said, you know, you could put your finger through this, it had the consistency of cheese. Well, we uncovered the bodies, and all that was left was some enamel from one or two teeth. However, if you looked, you could see the outline of a body. I could even see the long hair, and they had very long hair. And it was described to me as a dark man in dark water, a bath of dark water. They have preserved them, and if you go to Sutton Hoo, you can see the fiberglass casts that they made of them. Well, a body is a body is a body. No, it's not. A body is very important. Some of them were hanged, some of them were face down, and you think, well, people don't do that they must do that for a reason. Why? I don't know. That is open speculation. I have my ideas. I'm not going to say what they are because I can't back them up, and that's what you've got to do. Those of you who are interested, go and visit Sutton Hoo. It's a very fantastic place. But as I say, even on your doorstep, you can find people of the past. And what you're trying to do is to enter into a dialogue of the past. You don't have to be lords, ladies, kings, queens or whatever. It's the everyday people, the everyday lives that people had. It's easier, yeah, in trying to find your family's past if they are lords or whatever. I was very fortunate. On my mother's side it's easy to find. On my dad's side they were farmers. And people say, oh, I'm just a common peasant farmer. For you to have lords, for you to have currency, for you to have a religious system, a civil service, you have to make a surplus. And that is created by the farmers. The farmers who plant the crops, they sell them, there's a surplus, they sell that, that's your profit. And people, I think, underestimate the skill of the farmers. For instance, we talk about the Iron Age. Well, the output of wheat was not equalled until 1914. That's how successful they were. And it's very interesting how they did it. When we excavated Iron Age sites, we found that the pits were sort of bell-shaped, very narrow at the top, wide in the middle. And what they would do, they would fill these with corn. They would then put a clay cap on it. As it matures, nitrogen comes out of the corn. It forms a crust, and what's under that crust is preserved. The crust itself is your seed corn for the following year. So off comes the lid, out comes the crust, break it up and plant it, and you've got a lot of corn there for you to survive. These pits apparently were only good for about 10 years. After that, we find that they are full of rubbish, and in some cases there's even bodies in there. And have a drink here. So after 10 years or so, these pits are no go. And as I say, the rubbish of the people of the past is a fascinating thing to look at. And a study has been done, I can't remember who did it, but the poorer a society is, the more rubbish they make. And I find that fascinating, because you'd think rich people would consume more and therefore would have more rubbish. Not the case. Quite fascinating. And this is what I like, is there's little things that you think you take for granted, but no. The thing I find interesting about peoples of the past is, in some ways, especially the Vikings, in some ways they are just like we are today. In other ways, they're so different. And comparing and contrasting this is a fascinating thing. So, and it's not just, as I say, with the Vikings, but the Vikings resonate with me on a longer, much more. The skill, because people think of the Vikings as mad people leaping out of long ships, killing monks and doing various unpleasant things to people. Yes, there was that, but you're talking about possibly 1% of the population of the Viking period. And people don't do things because they do things. They do things for a reason. And if we look at the inheritance laws, you can understand why. I'm the youngest of 5, and my father passed away a long time back. But the point is, in Viking times, my eldest brother would have got everything. Neither me, my sister or my other brothers would have got a thing. Land was very scarce in Norway especially. So how do we do? What do we do? Got to earn a living. Get on a raid on England, wealthy country. So you go and raid. If you survive, great, you come back wealthier. If not, well, that solved the problem as well. Raiding and trading went hand in hand. Great fortunes could be made by raiding the right things, and there's no coming second. If the local army is there, you skedaddle. The Vikings weren't fools, they don't just go fighting people because they're there. They perfected it to the degree that just the word of the Vikings being there would frighten people. And maybe they come to a village, they're very well armed, and say, right guys, not these exact words obviously, right guys, we can raid and fight, and never know, you may even win, but a lot of you are going to die. Tell you what, you pay us and we'll clear off. So of course people pay, and of course, like all bullies, you can't, or blackmailers, you can't pay them off because they just come back. And the Vikings of course came back, and I think in today's money it was we paid a tribute to the Vikings, something like, in today's money, of £10 billion per year. And of course what you're doing there is financing them to make long ships, to have greater say, and you're paying to be raided. And there are more Saxon coins found in Scandinavia than there are in England. In fact, they even designed coins for the Vikings. So yeah, so how do you stop it? Well, out in Byzantium they had the right idea. You want to stop people attacking you, you hire other hordes of Vikings to fight them off, and they were very successful. They formed the Varangian Guard, which is a bit like the SAS Navy SEALs of their day. You had to be good to get in, and they successfully kicked out any invaders, mostly Vikings, and we find traces of them today in the great temple of Sophia, which was a church, is now a mosque. You'll find along the banisters on the gallery a series of runes which translated means Halfdan was here. So there's some tooled up bodyguard who got bored and scraped that in. But I've seen a photograph of it, but you can imagine a Viking being bored just carving his name in there. We even find runic inscriptions at Maze Howe, which is a tomb that predates the Viking Age by several years, and it's amazing. Again, it's like I was here and things like that. So yeah, it shows us that the Vikings were just as we are today in many respects. Their religion, well, they weren't all pagans. They converted remarkably quickly to Christianity. It became very pious in the way that they worshipped. So monasteries were founded, churches were founded, and Christianity gradually took over. Now, people say, how come the pagans didn't keep control? Well, it's for various reasons. Now, the word pagan actually comes from the Latin pagani, meaning country dweller. And that is to say, in the city, Christianity has a lot to offer. And yeah, eternal life, being nice to people, that's great. Out in the countryside, things are a little bit different, in as much as you're interested in fertility of the crops, you're interested in fertility of your animals, and let's face it, of your family, so that you can carry on. The more children you have, the more chance you have of people working on your farm and looking after you when you're older. The church enforced Christianity, but by the moonlight they would they'd get the last stalks of corn, make it into a loaf, and put it into the last furrow. It's what you did in those days. You didn't go on about it, but everybody knew, and everybody did it in the country. But the big thing that held Christianity is literacy. Yes, we have the runes, but they're limited in what you can do in the sense of writing things down. Christianity codified, so some Pope could write something 200 years before and it would be produced and it's exactly verbatim of what he said. Now, one of the interesting things I find is the manuscripts. The British did marvellous illuminated manuscripts, but their Latin was lamentable, in as much as it was a bit like hello, hello, good morning. But what they did was they would cut the illumination that the monks had done and paste it onto somebody else from abroad whose Latin was better. So bad it became that Pope Gregory sent English monks to sort of get a brush up on Latin. And yeah, you know, he did a good job. And one of the things I found fascinating with the Christian service was it was a bit like a rock concert, in as much as it was staged beautifully. Stone church, that in itself was a rarity in Saxon times. The darkness, and they set windows so the light shone on the altar. Then you have pots set in the wall, so when you speak it echoes. And then Pope Gregory had, of course, Gregorian chant, which I'm sure most of you out there have heard, is very hypnotic, very soothing. And then you couple that with incense and candles. It's phenomenal. It is otherworldly. In a day, in our society where you have electric lights, television, amplification, things like that, it seems primitive. But when you think the average person is living in, shall we say, difficult conditions, then you go to this place that's made of stone, small to us, but to them seems huge, and it's beautifully done. And you go in and the officials, priests, dressed in beautiful robes, and they're being nice to you, they're blessing you, and things like that. You give them what you can, and they're going to look after your soul. And religion it's a different attitude. I mean, the ideas, as we see in later life, of people being burnt alive because of what they believed. It's the nearest we've got to the Buddhist monks, I suppose, who were in Vietnam years ago, who set fire to themselves. That takes courage and conviction, a certainty which I think we've sort of been shielded against, but that's neither here nor there. But the cathedrals, when you see the later medieval cathedrals, massive. You go to York Minster, for instance, a very impressive building. What? They weren't just for religious reasons. Saturday you'd go in there and there'd be market stalls set up. People with their dogs would come in and you'd go and buy, I don't know, a bit of lace, a bit of leather, something like that, shoes or cheese or whatever. But the thing is, when you went out, if you looked at the actual cathedral, this itself would have been painted magnificently, blue, gold, red, silver, you name it, and it would really stand out. And as time has gone on, of course, the paint has faded, and not only was it painted outside, it had beautiful frescoes and painted on the inside, and like I say, it would be like a community centre. You'd pay taxes, tithes there, there'll be legal cases as well. All that would be going on. So yeah, you know, it was a place to be seen and to see. And the church integrated itself into society. Saxons didn't do it, the Vikings did, and that was wash. Now, it seems odd to us today. And what it is, the church, when you've had a hot day and you're sweaty, and you go in the shower or a bath, and there's that ah moment, yeah? That's the moment that the priest said sinful. So the men didn't wash. The Vikings washed once a week, whether they needed it or not, and of course they were a bit cleaner. So the ladies thought, yeah, they smell all right. And of course their success ratio was greater. And other strange things the Vikings did was they had what the hairstyle. And if you ever see videos of ABBA, there's one guy who's got a bit like what we call a page boy cut. Well, that's actually a Norwegian cut, which was very fashionable, but the church banned it because it's not very patriotic, you know. The Norse were seen as enemies, so, you know, let's keep them at arm's length. But things, as I say, mellowed, and my heroine Athelflaed was carrying out what her father wanted, which was unification of England as Anglo-Land. Not only had you got the division of Mercia and Wessex, before that there were little warring states. You had Northumbria, Dalriada, Mercia of course, Wessex, and each had its own little kingdom and ruler. Now we talk about kings, you know, kings and queens. Today society, you know exactly what that is, but it's not so clear when you go back to King Alfred's time. And of course each little area would have its own idea of how things were to be. There would be people encroaching on the land, so you defended it and maybe take a bit more land. In other words, you're just going round and round and round, you're not getting anywhere, people are dying for no reason. So Alfred decided he wanted to unite all of these. It wasn't going to be an easy job. The way the Vikings defended Danelaw was simple. We've heard of Hadrian's Wall, but you've got to have a whole army to garrison that. So the Vikings came up with the 5 boroughs, which are rallying points: Derby, Nottingham, Leicester, Lincoln and Stamford. These were rallying points. So you attack Derby, people theoretically come from the other 4 boroughs to help you out. But they also became trading areas. If you go to Lincoln, there was very heavy trade there. Derby was a bit of trade, but mostly military. And of course, you had to get around. How do you do that? Well, Queen Athelflaed, quite simply, she listened to what she was a chip off of Dad, of the old block from her dad, and she was a queen in her own right of Mercia, but she said she was Lady, a new title, and she attacked in 950. She sent her bishop to Brecon, knowing full well he was going to get killed, and sure enough he got killed. That gave her the excuse to go thundering into Wales, attacking the king. He lived on a Crannog, which is an artificial island. She destroyed 2/3 of it, took 17 prisoners, including the queen. You think, well, why that? Well, that's protecting her flanks, because the Welsh didn't like the Saxons. In 917 we read in the Anglo-Saxon chronicles that after Lammas, that's the first week of September, Athelflaed came storming into Derby, where she lost, quote, 4 thanes beloved to her within the gates of the city. Or gates, people think, oh, you know, no, gates is the Norse word for street, gata. And thanes are high-ranking soldiers. It's a bit like regimental sergeant majors, to lose 4 in one battle. And they were probably defending her, because she led from the front. She was in her 40s, so she was getting on a bit in Viking age, but she laid her hand on St Altman's tomb, which incidentally is on view at Derby Museum. Once she'd done that, she'd given us our nation and our language. Also, she broke that tomb open, took the bones of St Altman, took them back to Northampton. Now, without Athelflaed, so what? Well, you wouldn't have Chester as it is today. She resurrected that. She set up burghs, and what she was saying is this: I don't care whether you're a Viking, whether you're a Saxon, whether you're Welsh, whether you're Scottish or whatever. Obey yourself, obey your lords, and you're going to have a good time, prosperous time. If not, look at Derby. And it was sent shockwaves through the Viking society. Leicester surrendered without a fight. They had no, because nobody had fought a woman before. And they were entering into negotiations with the people of York, centre of the Danelaw. By 918, Athelflaed died. How she died or where, I have no idea. But she brought up her brother's child, Athelstan. Edward the Elder, when you read the Anglo-Saxon chronicles, you can almost smell the horse sweat as he's riding to gain possession of his sister's land, which he does. Edward himself, yeah, fair enough, king. But Athelstan, here's the first what we call Regia Anglorum, King of England. And he set about fulfilling his grandfather's vows of uniting England, which he did through a series of battles. 937 was a very was a very serious year for him. There were a lot of disgruntled Vikings. Sir Anlaf Silkybeard from Dublin. King Constantine had been humiliated by Athelstan and made to swear allegiance to him. The Welsh also had no love for him, and they were massive, this massive force. And everybody thought, Athelstan, you're out. Well, they saw the armies massing, and we think it's somewhere along the Great North Road. And Athelstan waited, he waited, and people were worried, in fact now, people were worried that maybe Athelstan had shot his bolt, he was too old, but Athelstan knew what he was doing. There is a whole page in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles dedicated to the outcome. King Constantine was killed, so were 4 other mighty lords. There was so much destruction that half the Viking fleet had to be left behind. This was the nearest we can say, in effect, would be the end of the Second World War in Europe. That's how important it was. Athelstan was true Regia Anglorum, King of England, and what he brought in is still in effect today. So now, let's go and see Bragi.
Oh, hello. I'm back. I'm sorry about that. I don't know if Egil explained why I had to go suddenly.
No.
Well, but my dad got up, he needed to go to the toilet, so I've been with it in 87, and some days he needs a hand, and he needed more of a hand there than normal.
Is he 87?
He is 87.
Wow.
It was his birthday a couple of weeks ago.
Wow. It wears well, I'll be honest
1931.
with you. Jeez.
And my dad started working in 1942, I think, or 43, and technically he's still working. So,
Yeah. No, I never realised he was that old.
yes.
Well done, Cyril.
Well, yes, old Magnar.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Magnar.
Yeah,
I know him as Cyril.
yes.
He doesn't know who I am at all, but there you go.
Well, I think he does. He does remember you, actually.
Is that why he keeps going to the lavatory? Oh, sorry.
He didn't remember you in the lavatory, no.
No.
Anyway, so what have you been talking about though? I just heard the back
All
of that.
sorts and everything. I've been talking about the importance of history, little bits of history that I've experienced in archaeology,
Oh,
how people can get involved with archaeology and history, women getting involved in history, my heroine, Ethelflaed, her campaign and her efforts to unite this country, and of King Athelstan and the Battle of Brandenburg. as a thumbnail sketch.
Yeah, we'll have to round this up very soon so we can get the next one done.
Sounds good
because
to me.
it's 1 o'clock. I've already started typing up a certain email for you, letter. So,
Okay.
So we're going to talk about very quickly about what's to come in the future. Now we have promised memes, and they are going to happen. So just bear with us. I think partly the problem there is that we struggle to understand what a meme is in theory, don't we? So, but we do have ideas and we do have a list. And of course you've got the Egil saga is going to happen, and the Fulsung saga. I'm not sure about the copyright issue of actually telling a whole saga. I'm sure there isn't one because they're so dated.
Dead, aren't they?
Yeah, so...
No, there's also the personal saga that I did.
Yeah, that's got to come out as a shout-out video. Subscriber special.
All right, because like you said, it could be carried on.
Yeah.
I've got a rough idea on that.
Another thing we're going to think about doing is top 10 or top 7 or top 9 videos. So, you know, I'm going to do one fundamentally on the top 10 beasts in folklore, and I think we're going to do one together. I'm going to work on the top 10 beasts in Norse mythology. So we're going to work on that. But an idea I'd just like to talk to you about is how do you like the idea of some very short videos? Although fundamentally I don't like short videos because they're bad for your overall watch time. But often on YouTube, very short videos can be very successful compared to longer videos. So what I'm thinking about doing is 2-minute videos just on subjects of the Dark Ages, a very brief chat. Do you like that idea? And if you'd like to see some of them,
Let us know.
yes, I think we are going to do some. We'll make a dozen and see how we go. Because this is going to be more simplified, because the whole point is, you know, you could do a video on what are the Vikings, because a lot of people may not have heard of about the Vikings or the Saxons. So it's just to simplify and just to get the basic knowledge out there, really.
Well, also one thing I said, I have got some actual Viking relics
Yes.
that will show. A bracelet, a brooch, and a Thor's hammer. And not a Thor's hammer as I've ever seen before. But
And in the next few weeks, we've got more vlogs to follow. We may think about doing some other things with the vlogs, and we will also bring back the comment section. We have more trailer reviews to do. In the next few weeks, it's my aim to cover all the series from the Last Kingdom and the Vikings, because they're both going to be out in the next few months. The new series, so let's get them in the bag. We're going to be travelling to areas in the future, so that's to follow. One thing I'd like to ask you is about the thumbnails. Do you prefer the thumbnails, the pictures on the videos, to have capital letters or no capital letters? This is a question for you. I mostly use non-capitals, but in the last few I have done some with pure capitals. So I'd just like your thoughts on that.
it's an aesthetic thing, isn't it?
Yes. And we'd just like to say thank you to all of our subscribers. Don't forget to go and make sure that you are still subscribed on the notification bell as well. Click that. And to share the content. If you could do a few things for us on this channel, there are a few ways you can help. You can help by telling your friends, telling your relatives, your grandma or your brother, or your friends and family. You can help by sharing that on your social media. But you can also help by helping us with our subtitles. That is an option we have on the channel where you can help to subtitle them. I don't expect you to go and subtitle all the complicated Viking words. What I really need of people to do for me is to just do the basic subtitles. Because one of the problems when you're a folktale channel, some days folk can come out as a different word, which you don't want. And then it also, with our names, it comes out, sometimes you're called Egil Thorson. So the translator gets mixed up with the basic English. So if anybody can help us there, that's great. I believe we have the option on where you can suggest thumbnails and also suggest titles to our videos. So there are ways you can also interact and help the channel out. But I'd especially like to just ask you to help with the subtitles, because I really struggle with that.
Yeah.
And I just need people to help with the basic subtitling. Then I can go in knowing that most of the work's been done, and I can go and put in the Viking names and all the names that you get.
Yeah.
So there's that. And we'd just like to say thank you so far for all the comments.
Cheers, yeah.
There's a few thank yous here. And we'd just like to say thanks to all the friends, you know, we've made. You know, you're awesome. You're all totally awesome.
Yeah.
And we love you for it. And, you know, yeah.
It's really good of people to take time out
Yeah.
to have a look.